Hey guys, it's so great to be back with you this week. So Phil, what have we got going on this week?
Well, last week, as I'm sure you remember, we were looking at how Joshua, in his last words to the Israelites, instructs them in chapter 23, verse 11, to be very careful to love the Lord your God.
We looked at how when Jesus is questioned, what is the greatest command, that he replies in Luke 10, verse 27, saying, it is this, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all of your strength.
So this week, we're going to focus in on what it means to love the Lord your God with all of your soul.
So your soul, what does the Bible mean when it refers to your soul?
One of these.
No.
Is it a soul like a fish?
No, definitely not a fish.
Is it a soul like a reefer Franklin?
There are actually many examples throughout the Bible where it talks about the soul. And to name a few, we've got Psalm 103 verse 1, which says, praise the Lord, my soul, all of my inmost being, praise his holy name.
Or in Matthew chapter 16 verses 26, where it says, what good would it be for someone to gain the whole world and yet forfeit their soul? What can anyone give in exchange for their soul?
Or another psalm, Psalm 107 verse 9 says, for he has satisfied the thirsty soul, and the hungry soul he fills with what is good.
So why don't you pause here and discuss what the Bible means when it talks about the soul? You might want to pick a couple of verses that we've just talked about there, but have a conversation. What does the Bible mean by the soul?
Right, I'm going to go make a brew. Jump on.
You were saying about thirsty souls. I think I need the brew to be thirsty.
Should we get some biscuits?
Hey?
I'm always down for a biscuit.
So in essence, your soul is the core of who you are. It's your inmost being. It's the part of us that gets to go to heaven to be with Jesus when we die.
The Bible talks about how we will get a new body, which is such a relief because with age, our bodies go tired, wrinkly, and don't work as they're meant to.
Yeah, and sometimes throughout life, we might get an illness or even be born with one. But when we get to heaven, we get new bodies which are perfect.
However, who we are, who God created us to be, the core of who we are, will go to be with Jesus in heaven.
Good news.
This is good, yeah.
But where in the past we have struggled to live out our lives according to the perfect standards that God calls us to live, when we get to heaven or when Jesus returns and takes us to be with him, we will no longer face these struggles or these challenges. We will be made perfect. We will be all who God created us to be, but without any of the sin that gets in the way.
It's what makes us different and why even with the thousands of years that the world has been in existence and the millions and millions of people that have lived and died, that there is no one like you. You are unique, you are individual, and you are made and created with a purpose.
You could think of it a little bit like the God print on your life. For example, we all have fingerprints and no two people's fingerprints are exactly the same. Oftentimes when the police are trying to figure out who somebody is, they will look for fingerprint evidence and then try and match it to the person.
Our soul is a bit like our God fingerprint. It's our unique God stamp that makes us different and unique to anyone else. Loving God with all of our soul means worshipping him, living for him, and giving him our absolute all, no matter what we might be feeling or facing. It requires faith and trust, and sometimes we have to choose or command ourselves to worship and love God.
Loving the Lord with all of our soul is so powerful. We were created to worship God, and we feel most satisfied when we are worshipping him.
But the enemy doesn't want us doing this, because when we worship Jesus and give him our all, our perspective completely changes.
Yeah, we get a whole new idea in our minds and in our hearts of just how amazing the God that we live for truly is, and all that he is able to do.
Paul and Silas are two people in the New Testament that loved God with all of their soul. They gave their everything to Jesus, even when that was a really hard environment to choose to do that in, because loving God with their absolute everything for them meant that they would end up in prison.
Yet when in chains in prison, they worship Jesus with all of their soul. And as they do, the prison walls shake, the gates fling open and the chains are broken free.
Yet they don't run out thinking, yes, we are finally free. They stay put. And by doing so, they save the prison guard's life, who would have been killed if the prisoners had escaped.
You see, they have found perfect satisfaction in worshipping and loving Jesus with all of their soul.
Yeah. Right. Sound?
Loving God with all of your soul doesn't mean you have to feel absolutely amazingly happy all of the time. It means choosing to love God with all of who you are and giving him your everything, even when it's hard or you don't really feel like doing it. A few years ago, Rain Collective released a song called Come On My Soul, and in it the lyrics say this: come on my soul, let down your walls and sing my soul.
David, a king, was known for shamelessly dancing before the Lord, giving him his absolutely everything, to the point that even his wife got embarrassed at what he looked like. But in that moment, David had a glimpse of what it is like to worship Jesus with our absolute everything. Everything. Go on, give us a dance. Booga, booga, booga.
You do a dance.
I did. Imagine if Jesus was to walk into your living room. Imagine if he appeared before you right now. How would you worship him? The reality is that Jesus is alive now. He is living within us. Let's worship him with absolutely everything within us.
Because actually, nothing satisfies us more, nothing brings us more wholeness than loving and worshipping God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Just like it says in Psalm 107, verse 9, for he has satisfied the thirsty soul, and the hungry soul he has filled with what is good.
We are made by God and for God, and when we take God out of the equation, we are left confused at who we are and why we're here, because we are God's children and we are made with a purpose that can actually only be found in him.
See, to love God with all of who we are, to love him with all of our soul, is to choose to give him everything.
Absolutely everything.
So guys, we've just got a few questions for you this week. How do you find worshipping God?
Do you find it easy to love God with all your soul? What do you find hard?
Good question. And how could you live for God this week, giving him your everything and worshipping him with all of your soul?
And that's not it. We are going to have a challenge this week.
Ooh, I love a challenge, me. What's going on?
Yeah, so we are going to set you a challenge. We want you to make a video or an action song of Luke 10 verse 27 and send it in to us via email, and we will be giving out prizes for first and second place for the most creative entries that we get.
What's the prize?
Surprise.
I love a surprise prize. You know, what would your prize, what if you could have a surprise prize, what would your surprise be?
My surprise
Would there be a prize of pies, pride from the flies of
What would yours be?
It would have to rhyme with pies and prize.
Like a ties of surprise.
Remember Tizer?
You could have loads of ties that said surprise.
Before, the drink?
No.
That could be a prize. A prize of Tizer.